I'm here now with Craig Drew, who's the head of materials at Clark's International, and we've been talking this afternoon about the concepts that we're likely to see in the tannery of the future. And I was hoping, Craig, you might just expand a little bit on how you saw your requirements impacting on tanneries as we go forward over future years.
No, for sure. I think some of the age-old demands are not going to go away with regards to quality, delivery performance, and pricing, obviously. But I think the big change will be the demands from the consumer upon the brands that they buy their goods from. They will expect a full integrity of the product with regards to the materials that make up that. And I think when it comes to leather, it's a very emotive material. And they will expect, I believe, knowledge of where that leather came from with regards to traceability, even back to possibly the farms where that animal was reared. And that, I think, is an evolving thing. I don't think we're quite ready to get there yet, but I think that is a future demand that we should all be working towards. We will need to bring in a bigger community, tanners, hide packers, merchants, potentially chemical companies for some of the other demands that are coming this way. But I think that's going to be the future expectation from consumers, and that will differentiate brands, leading brands, and I think from followers and just a consumer product on that side of things. I think it's quite interesting.
Interesting, but also complicated for a big company like Clark's, where you make so many shoes that simple local sourcing in the fields around Street and Somerset is hardly going to be adequate for your tens of millions of shoes each year.
No, very much so, very much so. I think our strategy currently, and this won't change, is working from a preferred group of tanneries. So that we're making approximately 50 million pairs of shoes. I would say we've got full transparency of the tanneries we use within those products. And I think it's pushing those tanneries now to work towards getting that transparency. Some tanneries potentially may fall by the wayside as a result, and as a company we need to manage what is a realistic target, both in time and in scale. But I think, as I said, that is the future, and I think we will, whether that's 5 years or 10 years, I'm not sure, but I believe that is where we will need to go, and tanneries will have to play a part in that.
We're seeing in the leather industry, particularly in the luxury goods trades now, quite a big change in structure with brands buying tanneries and tanneries going forward to making finished product. And we've seen, allied to that, great success in the automotive trade with the tanners actually cutting the leather. Do you see some of your tanners possibly cutting the leather for you and shipping in cut pieces in the future?
I wouldn't discount it. It's definitely a possibility. I would say that the footwear industry hasn't evolved as well as other industries over time. It's still a very hands-on process. You could call it an old-fashioned process, and I think all companies are looking at ways to innovate and improve or speed up the production process of the footwear. Tanneries, I think, is only a matter of time before we have tanneries actively offering us that. Some are already there, I would believe, and it's potentially on more commodity products, but it would definitely be something of the future, and we couldn't discount it. I don't think footwear factories would currently embrace it in Asia due to the costs associated with materials that are potentially within the overall shoe cost. They wouldn't want to lose that. But again, as we evolve and push in those areas and different cultures, it will be interesting to see how quickly some of those things start to come on board.
Another thing which is kind of allied to that would be line-side inventory management, where the tannery owned the inventory while it sat right next to your shoemaking, and then it was resupplied on a just-in-time basis. Those are very well-known techniques in other industry, but don't seem to have reached the leather industry yet.
That's interesting. Again, we've talked with tanneries about this. I think some types of leather would lend themselves to it more. Now, there's in our company, we've got a very good relationship with a UK-based suede tannery, where we use their products season after season. There's an argument for that, but there's a risk or an aversion to it from the tannery with regards to the storage conditions of those materials in the shoe factory and the time involved, and then if the goods was face a mould issue, where would the cost lie, and is that down to the storage conditions or the actual leather, etc., etc. And so there's other factors that would need to be looked at before that was actively put in place. But I wouldn't discount it, and in certain areas I would say, yes, that's something else to look at in the future.
Now, in Clark's, you see yourself mostly as a leather shoe company. Is that a fair...
Yes, I would say yes. We're known as a leather company, and that is our forte as such. But non-leathers, and that's a generic term for textiles, PU, synthetics, etc., are an increasingly important part of our product makeup, whether inside the shoe or as an aesthetic material or even ergonomic. And as a business, we recognise that's an area where we need to invest and take better control of, because there's a lot of allied risks from the leather industry that are also pertinent in that industry. So that's on my new job remit.
That is, and do you feel, just as a final question, that the group of tanneries that you're working with at the moment do work hard to try and understand the issues that you're dealing with and to meet your expectations going forward?
I would say generally yes, and I'd say it's part of my role to make sure that they do. Some tanneries are more advanced in their understanding than others, but I would say working with tanneries on a partnership or a consistent relationship level, part of that is to make sure they understand our demands and can then adjust and improve themselves accordingly. But as said, it's at very different levels depending on the types of tannery and also what leathers they make. But for me, that's an important part of the relationship, to make sure that everyone understands. I understand the pressures on the tannery, and they understand the pressures on the brand as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Okay.